of this revenue cap because they were no longer able to meet their financial obligations. They were unable to fund education. They were unable to fund infrastructure. Bond underwriters would not grant them underwriting of bonds for new roads, etc. Because when you have a revenue cap in the Constitution, the underwriters are afraid that the interest is not going to be paid out over time. Many of you probably know that bonds pay out interest over 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And underwriters look very, very askance when there are those kinds of revenue caps. So it's a very complex, several other states have looked at this. None of them have tried to implement it. It was in 1992 that Colorado implemented a very similar restriction. So if you vote yes, you would replace the existing state revenue limitation based on personal income growth with the new, more restrictive changes in population and inflation. And if you vote no, again, you're essentially saying, let's leave everything the way it is. We've never reached that cap to begin with, so let's just leave it that way. Okay. Amendment number 4 is the second of our property tax amendments. This has got a very long title because it's got a lot of parts to it, but remember, you only get one vote for all the pieces. Property tax limitation, property value decline, reduction for non-homestead assessment increases, delay of scheduled appeal. Okay, let me try and take you through those. Currently, there exists a situation in this county where it is possible if the assessed value of the house goes down, the taxes, the property taxes can still go up. This amendment would seek to prohibit that from happening. The second piece of it involves non-homesteaded properties. We all have friends who are here, only a certain number of months and their properties are not homesteaded. Currently, their property taxes cannot increase more than 10% a year. This amendment would seek to reduce that by 5 to 5%. Okay? And the third piece of this is to grant to first-time homeowners, people who have never owned a house in Florida before, they could have owned a house someplace else, but not in Florida, they would get, in the first 5 years that they own the house, a property tax deduction. So those who are in favor of this, and the county realtors are very much in favor of this, say this would be an incentive to spur the housing market again, okay? Now, what this would cost is, the best estimate we have, this one alone, in the first 3 years, $1 billion decrease in property tax revenues. So, if you vote yes on this, you are saying that you would reduce the local revenue by cutting in half the taxable rate of those non-homesteaded properties, that you would grant to new home buyers the property tax deduction over 5 years, etc. If you vote no, you're saying, nope, let's keep everything the way it is. Okay? Now we come to number 5, which is state court. And here I have to again do a little civics lesson. First of all, let's remember we have 3 branches of government at the state level. We have a judicial branch, we have the executive branch, which is the governor, and we have the legislative branch. Currently, when an opening occurs on the Florida Supreme Court, there is a commission, or not a commission, but a group of people called the Judicial Qualifying Commission, who get together, and this commission is composed of members of the Florida Bar, legal scholars, etc. And they put together a list of potential candidates for the Supreme Court. My understanding is they do a very good job and a very thorough job of vetting those candidates. They then take a smaller list, maybe 3 or 4, and present that to the governor. And the governor then makes his or her selection for the justice, and that justice is then impaneled. What this amendment seeks to do is to put another step in that and have the Senate have a yes or no vote on the potential justice. Okay? Multiple part amendment. The second part of it is, again, a little complex. If a justice were, or had, if there was a justice that was suspected of some malfeasance or misconduct, and that justice was sent up to another committee, currently, well, what this amendment would do is have the House of Representatives, enable the House of Representatives to go into that justice's confidential files on cases that they adjudicated, okay? The third thing it does is currently the justices set their own rules for the way they're going to run the court, like deadlines for filings. For those of you who are attorneys in the room, you understand this. The House of Representatives currently can override those rules with a 2/3 vote. What this amendment seeks to do is to reduce that to a simple majority, so that the House could change these, we call them kind of housekeeping rules and regs that the Supreme Court develops for itself and for the district courts. So if you vote yes on number 5, you would require the Florida Senate to confirm or reject a candidate selected by the governor, and you would allow the legislature to repeal the statewide judicial rules adopted by the Supreme Court with a simple majority rather than the 2/3 vote they currently have. And you would expand the ability of the State House of Representatives to review confidential files about judges, even if they are not being considered for impeachment. So, if you vote yes, that's what you're saying. If you vote no, on all three things, remember, because you only get one vote, you're saying, no, let's leave everything the way it is. Now, that brings us to amendment number 6. Prohibition on public funding of abortions, instruction of abortion rights. And I'd like to start by reading you a passage that currently exists in the Constitution. And I'm going to quote it so that I am not ever misquoted. Quote, "Every natural person has the right to be let alone and free from governmental intrusion into the person's private life," close quote. This particular statement has been used in the past when there have been court cases that revolve around abortion laws in Florida. And it's used by the defense, and it's called the privacy statement. And what this amendment seeks to do is to make not applicable this statement about privacy. So if you vote yes on this, you would mean that Florida's constitutional right, because it is in the Constitution right now, to privacy is not applicable to abortion-related issues. And it could allow more restrictive abortion laws to be found constitutional by Florida courts. And it would restate in the Florida Constitutional the federal and state law. On the federal level right now, there is a law that says taxpayer money cannot be used for abortions except in 3 cases: incest, rape, and the health of the mother. So what this amendment also seeks to do is to enshrine that language in the Florida Constitution. So that's a vote yes. If you vote no, you're saying none of those 3 things would happen. Okay? Everybody still awake? All right. There is no Amendment 7. Amendment 7 was sent back by the courts to be rewritten. The Secretary of State never reuses a number once an amendment has been sent back to be rewritten, and it is now Amendment number 8. It is the title Religious Freedom. Currently, again, in our Constitution in Florida, there is a 126-year-old provision that states no taxpayer funds can be used to fund an institution with a religious association. That's been in the Constitution for 126 years. If passed, this amendment would remove that prohibition. So opponents of this say this could open the door to school vouchers, where parents would go to their local Board of Education. They get a voucher for X number of dollars, and they would be able to take that voucher to a religiously based school. So if you vote yes on this amendment number 8, you would repeal what's known as the no aid provision, meaning no monies, no taxpayer monies can be used to fund a religious institution. And you might allow the expansion of Florida's school voucher system to schools that have a religious basis. And the other thing to remember here is when vouchers are used, they're taking money. I wish our two candidates were still here. They're taking money out of the public school system. The student goes with a certain amount of money, but there's also a group of students that are still left, and we have to provide buildings and books and teachers, etc., for those students. If you vote no on this, you are saying we are going to leave everything the same. Okay? Number 9 is yet another one of the homestead property tax exemptions, and this is for surviving spouses of military veterans or first responders. Currently, surviving spouses of military veterans who were killed in combat do not pay any property tax in Florida. This amendment seeks to expand the class of people that would be eligible to the spouses of first responders as well, that being police, fire, emergency medical technicians. They also, if you vote yes, would fall into the category where they would not have to, the spouses would not have to pay taxes. A couple of things about this that I think are interesting. If the spouse remarries, they lose the right to this deduction. But if they move, it is transportable and they can take it, you know, if they sell their house and buy another one, they can take it with them. So on this one, this is number 9. This one we think in the first 3 years will have an effect of about $1 million deduction in property taxes again, and these are statewide numbers. Okay? So if you vote yes on this, you're saying you want to include, these are statewide numbers. Okay? So if you vote yes on this, you're saying you want to include this new class of people, which are spouses of first responders who have lost their lives. If you vote no, you're saying no. Now, it's important when we talk about things like this, when we talk about the spouses and we talk about veterans, to remember that there are no benefits in these amendments for people who rent. These are benefits only for people who own their homes and have their homes homestead, okay? And I think that's an important issue that many people overlook, that there are another whole class of people who are renters, and so therefore would have no entitlement. So if you vote no on this, obviously you would say, we're going to leave everything the way it is. Number 10 is another sort of